I want to share my story with you about how I went from a poor mindset to a success mindset. I was born in Italy in a small city, and I lived in the outskirts of that big city. And my family struggled over the years financially, and I went to school, and then my dad at one point decided that he didn't want me to go to school anymore. So he pulled me out of school when I was 13 years old because he was afraid that all the boys would chase after me and he didn't have to worry about that. And then I managed to go to school when I was 17 years old. And the whole time growing up, because of the financial struggles in the family, grew up thinking and hearing, we can afford this, or this is for the rich people, this is not for us. And if you fast forward years later, I ended up getting married, and I was in a marriage for 14 years where I was not allowed to work, not allowed to have a career. And at the end of that marriage, while I was going through the divorce and fighting for a child support, I had a child at the time, and right in between that divorce and having found a job, somebody decided to set fire to the place where I lived. And I had been struggling already. The job that I had found barely paid my bills, so I didn't have the means to pay for any extras like house insurance, for example. And basically lost everything that was in the home. We were very lucky, my daughter and I, not to be in the house at the time that somebody decided to set a fire. It was actually a crime scene. My landlord, who happened to live upstairs, died in the fire. So we felt we were very blessed that we had at least our suitcases with us. We happened to be away at that time. And then 10 days later, when 10 days later after that fire, I got called in the office and where I worked. And I was told that the company was not doing well and they were letting pretty much everyone go. So within 10 days, I lost the home, all the belongings that I had in it. It was a little basement suite that I had been renting after I had split from my ex-husband. And and now I had no job. And so I had to start looking for work again, which seemed it would be an easy thing to do, but it wasn't. And I started going to interviews, job interview after job interview, and I wasn't getting work. I was still homeless. When I had left my ex-husband, it seemed most of our friends decided not to be friends with me anymore. So it was a very lonely journey. It was very difficult. And as I said, I was going to job interview after job interview, and nobody was hiring me. I was either not qualified or overqualified, which I'm not even sure how that was even possible. And I was looking very, very hard. At one point, I was looking so hard for work that in 1 month, I had 33 job interviews. I had 2 agencies helping me get interviews booked, and nothing was happening, and I was getting very frustrated. I was barely living on unemployment insurance that I was given from being laid off. And months went on, and my unemployment insurance started running out. And right towards the end of that, September 11th happened. So that's 9/11. We're talking about 2001. And all the interviews stopped. And now I found myself as a single mom without a job, without a home. And I didn't know what to do. Like, how do you put food on the table? You have a child to feed. And unemployment insurance is starting to run out. What do I do? So I had to make a decision that if nobody was going to hire me, I would hire myself. Now, the moment that really changed my mindset, as I was saying earlier, I grew up with this poor mindset, thinking can't afford it. I was thinking this, things are for rich people, not for us. I felt like I didn't deserve to be successful. And I remember when I when the fire was set at the house back in January of 2001, I received this phone call from my friend who had told me, she said, "Are you sitting down?" And she told me that the house had been burnt. I remembered that everything prior to that moment was a me of feeling sorry for myself. It was always, why does this happen to me? Why did I have a horrible marriage? Why this and why that? Everything was about blaming everyone and everything around me and not really taking any accountability and responsibility myself for maybe things that were happening because I was seeing them that way and I should change the way I should look at things. So the moment I got that call, when my friend is telling me, don't even bother coming home because there's nothing left, it was so surreal. And I remember thinking, holding the phone and this dead silence on my end and thinking, I have a choice now. This is the moment for me. I can continue feeling sorry for myself. I can go to welfare and just keep blaming everything and everyone, or I can choose to clean slate. Like, I don't even know what this other side is. I had no idea what it would look like to not be and feel like a victim. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to grab this bull by its horns and I'm going to ride it with all it's got. I don't know what it looks like. I know it's going to be tough, but I know that if I go back, if I continue feeling sorry for myself, it's not a place that I like. And I just know what that looks like and I don't want that anymore. So it was a moment of decision. And as hard as that time was, financial struggle, no home, no job 10 days later, the fact that I made that decision made me embrace whatever challenge came. It was like a strong decision, and it was one of the most horrible times of my life, and at the same time, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it showed me that we as individuals have so much power within us. We just have to choose to dig it, but it's there. We all have it. I didn't believe I had it until that moment. And I think I didn't even believe it at that moment. I just made a choice that I didn't want the negative in my life anymore, and that would always try to find the positive and not just look at the positive, but try to find how to use that positive, not just look at it, but embrace it and build on it. And that's what basically happened. It took that, from the January down to September 11, and then I ended up deciding to hire myself by opening a dance studio. I always loved dancing. I had dance training, so I decided to open a company and started my own business. I had zero experience. I had no clue what business was even. I had no idea how to do anything in business, and I learned the hard way. At first, I took a course on business, entrepreneurship, did everything by the book, and here comes the next challenge. I opened the studio. I had my big grand opening, and nobody came. And I think because I had made that decision earlier on that I would not be a victim, it kind of equipped me to try to find a different way, and instead of feeling sorry for myself again, because I could feel sorry for myself sitting there in the middle of an empty dance studio that I had rented and nobody there to come in and get some students to support me, because that would be my only means of income. It was a pivotal moment for me where I said to myself, oh, I'm not a victim anymore. I decided that. So I'm just going to find a way. There is a way. There is no other option, and I will figure it out. I will find a way. I will ask for help. I will do whatever it takes. And 6 months later, I sold out every class I had in the studio. I worked down to the bone, but from that point on, my business skyrocketed. And I learned so much about business. I love sharing my story, not because it's a great story. I don't think it's a great story. I only like to share my story, and I share it a lot with a lot of different people because I believe that anything negative that happens in our lives should not be wasted and should not be in vain. So I like to share my story to help inspire you if you're watching this, if you're feeling you're in a place where everything happens to you and you feel like you're in a rut and you don't know how to get out, the thing is, you can. There is help out there. You just have to believe that there is. And even if you don't believe, just take the steps. And when you start seeing the results, then you'll start to believe. So that's what I've learned. This is what I've learned from my experiences. So now whenever something happens, whenever there's a challenge, I choose not to be a victim, not to think, poor me, or why does everything happen to me? Because it doesn't mean that challenges don't continue to happen. They still do. It's just a happier way of living when you look at life differently from a positive side, but also how to use that positive, not just look at it, but just what can you do with it, and grow from there.